Thank you, Rabbi Mark. Thank you, Jordan, for holding. And I would want to say thank you to everyone for the care and the connection that is so felt here. It's really, really like a very, very visceral, tangible part of our lived experience here is knowing that we're held with so much care and everyone's prayers there. So really, I'm looking at all your faces now, and I'm just very, very grateful. I know you're praying for us. And it means everything to us. It means absolutely everything for us, and gives us enormous strength. And truly, you all know, we all know very, very well. We can't even begin to get our minds around it, but we're all very aware of what has been lost already, and the terrible, terrible cost of what's already happened. And it's also revealed the very real connection between us. It's revealed people's true nature. I want to tell you that I can't walk down the street here or look at my phone without being bombarded with kindness and opportunities to volunteer and requests for activism and donations to help kids, to help families, to help seniors, to help people from the South, to help soldiers, to help teachers, people just from every walk of life, from every profession, are like giving themselves, giving their gifts, helping each other. It's full mobilization, but instead of being like, only a military mobilization, it's a social, loving, connected mobilization. And really all of you who are holding us in your hearts are part of that. And just thank you. We feel it and we appreciate it. And we are in this together. We can only be together. And it's actually incredible to be in a country that was so divided, bitterly divided only a few days ago. And those divisions have been like almost completely, like, it's not, I wouldn't say forgotten, but like I think there's been an almost complete consensus that they're just not relevant right now. And that's an unbelievable, powerful thing, to go from such divisiveness to this like proactive, overflowing. Like I say, I just, the other day a siren went off and I was not home, and strangers invited me into their shelter and treated me like one of their family. And then I found out while I was there, the people who were there, someone in the family was setting up their own database to try and track the people who are held captive in Gaza to help the authorities, because the authorities, for whatever reason, like they hadn't yet completed that task. So citizens, private citizens who like work in the relevant technical sectors had like taken the initiative to help them, and that's just like one tiny example. I haven't to get a glimpse of it, but really it's everywhere. It's all the time. So that's something I felt was very, very important for you to know about what's going on here, and to know that you're all part of that. And I'll offer a brief teaching now, and then we'll practice together. We'll sit in silence together. The teaching is it's very, very, very fundamental to our whole edifice, to Judaism, I don't like to call it a religion, really, to whatever it is, our spiritual path. And it's the first chapter of Genesis, of Bereshit, which in the new cycle of Torah after Simchat Torah, which will never be the same again. Now we're beginning the new cycle of Torah. Those of us who read the Torah once a year, we end it and begin it on that day, and then we start again. So now we're beginning with Genesis, with Bereshit, with the first piece of the Torah about God creating the world. And the first chapter uses the divine name Elohim. And the second chapter introduces Yud-Heh Vav-Heh Elohim. Yud-Heh Vav-Heh, unpronounceable, ineffable, transcendent, divine mystery. And our rabbis, in our earliest rabbinic commentaries in Genesis Rabbah and the Midrash, they say that the name Elohim is the name of judgment. It's the name of severity. It's another way of saying that, though, is it's the name of God that creates the laws of nature. Like there has to be a certain rigidness and a certain tachlis, a certain fixedness to the laws of nature for the universe to exist. And that's, we have gravity and all that kind of thing. We have the laws of thermodynamics and all that kind of thing. Otherwise, our universe wouldn't really be what it is. But in the second chapter, we have Yud-Heh Vav-Heh Elohim, and our rabbis say That is the name of compassion. And this beautiful midrash, and it's brought by Rashi, so it became quite famous and quite prominent in Jewish consciousness, that the midrash says, God first thought it would be a good idea to make the world with din, law, rigidity. This is how science works. This is how nature works. That's how the universe is going to work. Everything's going to follow these laws. And then God realized, God had a change of heart. God realized, it says, that the universe would not endure like that. It wouldn't last. Life could not endure if it ran only according to din, to judgment, to severity, to law. So what did God do? God took compassion, rachamim, womb compassion, and God put that womb compassion, that rachamim, first and joined it to din, and therefore made the universe sustainable. And therefore the universe could be mitkayem, it could endure. And that's the universe we live in. You know, it's the universe where there are laws and there is rigidity and there is severity. But we're told right from the very beginning of creation that compassion has to be put first. And that's the practice we're going to do today, is beginning with feeling that compassion for ourselves. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, the great Hasidic master, says we have an obligation to send compassion, to send rachamim to our bodies, first and foremost. Our bodies that go through so much, that hold so much of our grief, our trauma from our whole lives, and from events like the last few days is in our bodies. So that's the practice we're going to do. We're going to send compassion to our bodies. We'll settle down, we'll find an anchor, and we'll do that. And then once we get to a place where we've done that and we feel ready to, we can then, of course, send that compassion wherever we want to send it to all of these beautiful boxes and faces I'm seeing in front of me right now. And to everyone who needs it here, you know, to the people being held captive, to the families of those directly affected, to the mourners, of which we have many close to us, and the soldiers and the families of the soldiers who are everyone we know. You know, and anyone else you want to send compassion to, you know, all of the innocent victims of this conflict. So that's our practice. Let's find an anchor. If you have a regular practice, use whatever anchor works for you. Otherwise, I'll suggest that we use a neutral part of our body that's safe for us, maybe the soles of your feet, maybe your backside or elbows. And let yourself settle your attention into that anchor. Throughout the practice, of course, all kinds of things are going to happen inside us, arise within us. And that's completely okay. We welcome that. We acknowledge our humanity. That's how we're made. That's the compassion from the beginning of creation that we're here to cultivate. We're refinding our anchor, coming back to it as much as we need to. This is a safe place where we can put our attention, that safe place in your body or whatever object you use. This is our safe home base. And throughout the practice, we'll come back to it whenever we need to, whenever we notice that we're not practicing as we might want to. It's all part of the practice, though. When we feel ready, the instruction is to send compassion to our body. If you want to send it to one particular place of your body at a time, that can work very effectively. If you want to give yourself like a compassion bath or shower, from the top down, from the bottom up, whatever works for you. You're going to be sitting in silence, so I'll let you use your own discernment to send compassion to your body as much as you can in each moment, with no fixed expectation or judgment. And then, as I said before, if you get to a place in the practice where you feel ready, So extend that compassion to everyone here, to all of us, to all those that you're connected to in your lives, and to anyone else you want to extend it to. And that's great. Follow your discernment. And we'll sit now in silence. And let's gradually bring this practice to a close. As we come back together, really, we just want to thank everyone for your practice, your presence, the connection we share. It's very, very precious. And just ask that you keep us in your prayers and your hearts, as I know you do. And to know that we feel it and appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
Rabbi Daniel, thank you so much. It is really moving to be with you and to feel that connection so strongly, so intensely. And thank you for that beautiful practice, which we all need, the practice of rachamim, of compassion. And friends, we seal the practice. Hope you will stay present for the mourner's Kaddish, for those who are in mourning, observing yard sites. Those who participate in the Kaddish are welcome to do so. If you're not reciting Kaddish, you can just stay present and offer your rachamim, your compassionate support for those who are. You could put the name or names of anyone you'd like to include in the chat. Of course, we are mindful of the terrible loss of life, and many of us reciting Kaddish on behalf of the neshamot, the souls of those who have died. And if you're reciting Kaddish, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit. And you can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Hashem Rabbi, Ma Divrei Yamim, Vayechon Yom Vayekol Beit
Adalav Isman Karim Ramen Shemei
Shalom b'mamah.
Amen.
Shalom Aleinu v'Yal Yisrael v'Yal Yisrael. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Friends, thank you so much for joining us today for this sit. I want to thank our teacher, our friend, our Rabbi Daniel Raphael Silverstein for leading us today. So special, so really healing to feel this connection. Just want to note that next week, by the way, we'll have two teachers leading us from Israel again on Tuesday. Yiska Smith, who of course teaches for Applied Jewish Spirituality, will be leading us on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, Rabbi Nami Kelman, former dean of the Rabbinical School at Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem, will be leading us as well. And we're grateful for these connections. As always, you're invited to stay on for some conversation or just to continue to sit if you'd like with that beautiful rachamim practice that Rabbi Daniel offered us. You can use the time and space of this community to do that, or join us to share reflections on your experience with the practice today or ask questions. Thanks again to Ellie Goldstein for sponsoring today's practice and your beautiful dedication, Ellie. And also, of course, thanks to Jordan Pollack for holding our space today. Jordan, if you don't mind putting a link, there's a link to the programs that Applied Jewish Spirituality is offering. One program that Rabbi Daniel's offering and that Yiska Smith is offering as well. Our sibling organization, Applied Jewish Spirituality, has some really wonderful offerings, and we're so glad to be able to collaborate and share word about those programs as well as our own. And also a reminder for those of you who have not yet subscribed that our daily sit is now a podcast as well. We take it will in general be one of the daily sits from each week will be released as a podcast, but since it's new, we've released a number of recent daily sits for our podcast, which is called Jewish Meditation for Everyone. So if you are someone who listens to podcasts, you can get it on any of the platforms. We hope you'll subscribe. Hope you'll enjoy it. Hope it gives you another opportunity or medium for engaging in practice at a time that works for you when you're walking or at any time. So with that, I'm going to invite Rabbi Daniel back in. Wow, Daniel, my heart is really very full from that. Thank you. And the theme of your teaching from Breshit, this, we begin the new Torah reading cycle, and I'm also still kind of reverberating with what you said. That is true, that Simchat Torah will never be the same, which is, don't know what to say about that. It's true, in the same way that Purim has not been the same, and Yom Kippur has not been the same. So we can add one more to our holiday. However, one of the ways that we have always responded to horror and trauma in Jewish history, of course, is turning to practice and Torah study in particular. So I appreciate you lifting up those first two chapters of Genesis, Breshit, and this idea. I just want to revisit, because the concepts of Din and Rachamim, of judgment and compassion, which are names of, literally, like, understood in our tradition, as you're saying, like, as names of God, right? These are divine, these are spiritual energies that are present within us and in our bodies. And so what I wanted to invite you to do, you wrote a beautiful piece. I'll put the link in the chat for people who may not have seen it. Rabbi Daniel wrote a beautiful piece about your experience on Simchat Torah with your son, giving him a hug on your way to the shelter, on the way to shelter. And was thinking, that was in my mind as we were sitting, thinking about sending your son some rachamim, and about the Din of holding him, the structure, providing the structure to hold him, as you did today, providing the structure for us to. So I wanted to just invite you to talk a little bit more, just to riff a little bit, if you would, about those two energies, because they can be seen as antagonistic to each other, right? It was either like your Din, you're in judgment, and you're in that kind of, which can, if it was untempered, would just lead to pure vengeance, right? It's our id run amok. And then there's Rachamim, which is, without the Din, is just like this boundless compassion in which we're defenseless. And so it seems to me to be really so relevant to, cultivating wise response to what's happening right now. I want to invite you to speak a little bit more about that, if you would, if you want, personally, or just however you'd like to share on that.
Thank you, Ramon. So what comes up for me right now is that in that ancient midrash I mentioned, it's rachamim, compassion, and din, which are being juxtaposed. We find a little bit later in Kabbalistic texts, we find that we're working with a triangle of chesed, which is loving kindness or loving oneness, and then din, which is also called gevura, sometimes severity. And then what happens is, the way the Kabbalists see it, they're part of the tree of life, and the tree of life is made of triads, of triangles. And in the tree of life, chesed, this loving kindness, which I'm doing with my right hand, because the Kabbalists say it maps onto the right shoulder, the right hand, the right arm, and din, gevura, severity, judgment over here on the left. The Kabbalists say they meet together in the heart, and that's where rachamim is. And they say that rachamim, healthy compassion, is a healthy synthesis and combination of the two. And very, very beautifully, it's talked about that chesed, loving kindness, is like water. Water is essential for life. There's none of us could be here without water, right? Our life on our planet it is only possible because of that. But water without anything to hold it or shape it, any kind of vessel, isn't going to do the specified job. Like, water has to be in the right place and has to be held. So that's one way the Kabbalists understand din, gevura, is it doesn't have to be so super harsh. Like, there is harsh din that exists, but it's also just like a necessary din for life. And that's how the Kabbalists talk about it in Zohar and so on. They say, without din, there's no chesed coming into the world. Because if you don't have a container for water to put it in the right place and hold it and let it do what it does, then there can be no life. And again, when we put those together, we get this healthy rachamim. And you talk about how Abraham is chesed, and then Isaac is his son is Gevurah. They're the archetypes given in the Zohar. But if it weren't for the din, the Gevurah of Isaac, then the teachings and the chesed and everything that Abraham represented would go nowhere. Like it would just end. So the Gevurah was necessary to bring that chesed into the world. And well, in terms of my own practice and experience over the last few days,
I don't even know if you can reflect on. I don't know if you can reflect on it.
No, I'm happy to try. I mean, you mentioned my son. Thank God we have two kids. They're 6 years old and 8 years old, and I'll share. The last time there were rockets in this part of the world was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And thank God they were young enough then that basically they barely noticed, and they didn't notice. They didn't know about it. And we were able to deceive them. Thank God. Right. And so that's din, right? That's Gevurah, like holding the container for the sake of Rachamim, for the sake of love. And this time we're holding the container in a different way because it can't be hidden. It can't be fully deceived. But still, we're, obviously, we're minimizing what they're aware of to the bare minimum, right? Like only that which is like absolutely unavoidable.
Right.
And that's also din, right? That's also holding a container for the sake of love, for the sake of rachamim.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I do, and I don't want to speak for you either. But I just want to reflect back, like what I got from your piece, which I put the link, by the way, to Rabbi Daniel's piece, and he has also a beautiful prayer for Israel, which I guess you posted today on Times of Israel blog. But you're describing that flow of chesed as water, mediated by din, structure, right? And then into rachamim, and you're describing in your piece holding your son and telling him it's going to be okay, which, of course, thank God it was, and God willing will be, but we don't know. We never know, right? But as parents, when we tell our kids, you're going to be okay, we cannot guarantee that. Something about being able to say that's what I want to say about the rachamim is that I was picturing your arms hugging him as the din, as the container, right? The physical container. And the rachamim is the you're okay, you're going to be okay. Like you were inviting us to bring that to our body. You're going to be okay, body. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay, hostages, captives. You're going to be okay. We don't know, right? We don't know they're going to be okay. And rachamim, chesed has a little bit, that's what I don't know that we can put it into words really, but I think your story, better than a simple phrase or word, describes what rachamim is, which is this kind of love with heartbreak, and that's all inclusive. That holds the fear. It holds all the emotions are present. It's not just like you're going to be okay in the simple sense. It's in a deep sense. You're not alone. If nothing else, you're not alone, which is really what you were articulating, I think, at the outset. I don't want to take more time away from you because I think it's everything you say, of course, is really so beautiful. But I just want to reflect that back to you, like, how I took in your Torah there as just a beautiful embodiment of that, of rachamim, of the distinction also between rachamim and chesed and love, because they're sometimes used so interchangeably. And also, by the way, as you're describing that triad, right, in the Zohar of chesed, Abraham, and Din or Gevurah, Isaac, and then of course rachamim is Yaakov, Israel. That Israel, the name Israel, represents that integration, that kind of synthesis. And the challenge of holding that synthesis, whether it's politically, militarily, emotionally, spiritually, seems to me to be the core practice for our whole people right now.
Amen. That resonates with me very much. On so many levels. I everything. I deeply resonate with everything you say. I'll add the piece that so Rachamim, another name for it in the Kabbalah is Tiferet, beauty or harmony, and it's sometimes understood as harmony between the. So further, we already mentioned how it's a synthesis between Chesed and Gevura, between this loving flow and this boundary. So between flow and boundary, but also it's understood as being a synthesis and a harmony between the individual and the collective, between the detail and the universal. Mm-hmm. And I already heard that in what you were saying too, that
yes,
when we do this practice of compassion, it connects us, right? It connects us ultimately to everything if we continue to practice. And that's our true state. That's our true nature. That's we may not feel it all the time, or even most of the time, but we're part of this great sea of whatever you want to call it, life, consciousness, love, mm-hmm. And that Rachamim, Tiferet, and all these different names for this quality are like a way in to access that. And I'll add one more piece quickly. I see we're not much time left, but one of the key practices in Kabbalah is to say that we're doing something for the sake of unification of the different elements of the divine, of Kudsha B'richu and Shechinte, of the transcendent divine and the immanence divine, the masculine divine, the feminine divine. And those relate directly to Rachamim, Tiferet, is Kudsha B'richu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the transcendent divine, the masculine divine. And then Shechinte is Malchut, which is another way of saying all of life, all of us, everything that is. So one of the key practices in Kabbalah, in other words, is to say, everything I do, I'm doing for the sake of unifying compassion with existence. I'm trying to bring compassion to what is, in other words. And that's basically like what most of Kabbalah is trying to do, and what most of the Zohar and other Kabbalistic texts are about, is the union of those qualities, unifying compassion with what is. And that's our work. May we help each other in it, because it's really hard.
Amen. Well, I hope you can really just take this moment to feel the rachamim and the love flowing from us to you, to your family, to our people, and to all who are in need there. And there's a lot going on. There are many opportunities for a practice like this, and boy, do we need this now. So please do check out the offerings through Applied Jewish Spirituality. Just a reminder about the session for young adults tomorrow night for 20s and 30s at 8 o'clock that Rebecca Schisler and Gashira Halafai are holding. And next Tuesday night, we hope all of you will join us. And by the way, Rabbi Daniel will be back to lead us in a almost week-long series in November, I think 13th to 16th, on the Shema, four sessions, Monday through Thursday. And we'll very much look forward to that. And I guess that's the next time that we'll see you, Rabbi Daniel. And we're just so grateful to you, sending you our love, our support, and our presence, and many blessings to you and to everyone here.
Well,
all right, everyone.
Thank you.
We hope to see you tomorrow at our usual time. In the meantime, thanks to Jordan, thanks to Ellie for sponsoring us, and each of you for showing up and for your beautiful devotion to this practice.